You are now listening to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. We preserve the history and sport of hunting through curious conversation and action-packed hunts, as well as offering you tips and strategy for more successful hunts. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. This is episode number 140. I'm joined by Jake Gaylord. How's it going, sir?
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Answering a question with a question.
Maybe.
It's an ancient technique of negotiation. No, how are you?
Sure.
All right. So, probably just set a new record for the awkwardest intro we've ever had. But
many more to come.
Yes. Today's episode.
What are you drinking?
Some of the Lord's tea.
Okay,
Lord's
so Chick-fil-A sweet tea, I assume.
Yes.
Do you think that's any better for you than pop?
Doesn't matter because I can
75
rationalize
hard?
it. I am.
What's that say?
Says that I'm hitting my macros, son.
I mean, I think 75 hard says no soft drinks, and then you're drinking something that's probably worse than a soft drink.
It's not a soft drink, though. It's not carbonated.
So whenever TAC rolls around, would the end of your 75 days be up?
Yes, thank God.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, I was just asking.
Yeah, thankfully. I'm doing this fitness program, and it's not – Jake's trying to haze me because of my tea drinking, but I enjoy it. It makes me happy. So that's fine.
Well, the only reason I ask because when TAC rolls around, after you get out shot, you're going to want to mourn and drink away all of your problems, possibly.
That's true. That could happen.
No, and when I say drink away, I mean like just a whole bunch of cases of Sunny D.
Speaking of TAC, we do have a pretty pimpin' cabin for TAC already.
It's going to be fun.
Our cabin has a hot tub. I'll say that. It's pretty awesome. It's going to be very fun.
Is that why you invited two other dudes?
Well, yeah, a hot tub's not full unless you're bumping feet. You know what I mean?
I like it. It. Who's the other guys that are going with us?
Matthew Taylor and Micah Cano. I think that's how you say the last name. Yeah. A couple of hardcore bow hunters. Matthew was hunting.
Well, they're from Texas, so I don't know how hardcore they could be. So
tread lightly. We have a lot of people from Texas on here.
Come at me, boys.
We got a pretty good crew for TAC, but this episode's not about TAC. This episode is about this is like Theo Vaughn's podcast, like this past weekend. That's basically what we're talking about. We're talking about this past weekend, which was a shed trip turned scouting trip turned camping trip. So it was all those things bundled into one. For me, it started out as a camping trip. Jake decided he couldn't. He's not as Goggins as me, so you couldn't stay out in the cold.
Okay, what's worse, waking up at 4:30 or 5 and driving multiple hours to go shed hunt, or driving there the night before and then staying on a nice air mattress? I'm pretty sure waking up early would be a little bit harder.
Well, no,
I'm kidding.
A nice air mattress?
Yeah.
No,
it was only like 30 degrees.
Yeah, it was. So I don't know if we've talked. Have we talked about my camper shell on the podcast yet?
I don't think so.
So I found this nice lady, this person that was selling a camper shell, and her. It's sad because I was like, you know when you get scammed on Facebook all the time, like it's usually like a woman selling an item that a woman shouldn't be selling, like a camper shell or like an ATV or something. You're like, is this yours? Or are you selling it on behalf of someone? Well,
is it stolen?
Yeah, is it stolen? That's another good question. It wasn't. It was just this poor guy. His ex-wife was selling his camper shell, and so I picked it up, and it fit my truck. And this was my first weekend trying it out, and I found this. This is probably the analogy I would use for the camper shell. It's like when you get a really nice like fishing scamp from like an uncle or someone that's like, oh, you can have it. It's been in the pasture for a few years. And then you get in it and it's only sitting about this high above the water line and you can't move very far. And like it weighs 500 or 600 pounds when you go to pull it out of the water. That's kind of like what it was like sleeping in the camper the first night.
And why is that?
Because you saw it when I showed you it when I was up at my parents' place, but where the tailgate shuts on my Ford truck, there isn't like, it doesn't create a perfect seal. Like there's like 2 eyeball sized holes on the edge of my bed where you can just like see light. And I had the propane heater running with like the windows cracked. And I just felt this steady stream of just air, like cold air hitting my face. And I was like, there's a problem.
To a normal person, that would almost be super relaxing where you could probably fall asleep instantly. Like, you're all warm and then just a little bit of nice breeze on your face. To me, that's like instant KO. But I've hunted with Christian long enough and we slept in his truck multiple times. And I have done this enough to know that he already knows what I'm going to say.
I know.
He loves warm weather. This man's like, what are you, 6'2", 6'1"?
6'2", yeah.
5'11", okay. And so this man, yeah, he loves the heat. And you would think that as big as he is, I'm not calling you fat, but I'm just saying like usually bigger guys, like taller guys, like can't stand to be hot. And like I'm like what, 5'11", 6 foot maybe. I couldn't hold it in. I'm 5'10" on a good day. Yeah. No, but anyways, listen to this. I am 5'10", maybe 5'11" with shoes. So just letting y'all know. I can't stand to be hot because I don't mean to get too super off topic. If you've been a long time listener, you probably heard this story before. Christy and I, just a little short rundown. Christy and I went turkey hunting and we slept in his truck, and basically we were trying to take a midday nap, and it was like, would have been fine. Like it was springtime, obviously. So it would have been fine. Like, lay on the ground,
windows down. Yeah.
Right. But Christian decided to leave his truck running. I'm like, hell yeah. Leave the truck running, AC, beautiful nap. No, I would wake up every 15 minutes to him or just drenched in sweat. So I was on the side of the pickup that had the sun beating in on the window because I was in the passenger seat. So it's already hot from that. And then this man had the AC or the heat fully cranked. And so I would wake up in a puddle of sweat, and then he'd obviously be asleep all nice and warm. And then I would flick it over to AC. And as soon as I fell asleep, I guess he would wake up. And then we just kept playing like a game
tag.
of phone tag, but with the heat and AC. And it's just ever since then, like I see it in those little moments. Like it'll be summer scouting and he'll have the heat on, and it's just like, no.
It was funny because I slept in the back seat one day while you and Carol slept in the front 2 seats of my truck when we were summer scouting one time. Mm-hmm. And I remember waking up, I'm like, God, it's freezing in here. and Carol was like, dude, it's not going to be 90 degrees in the truck. There's 3 dudes in here.
I'm telling you, like, I mean, I'm sure but how does Lauren feel about that? Is y'all's house set on like 80 degrees or what?
No, dude, I'm telling you what it is you would hate to ride with me on a long driving trip because I will go from extreme heat to extreme cold. Like, I don't like the middle. I like it being really hot or really cold, and I just go back and forth between the two when I drive. So
you are David Goggins. You like to struggle constantly, either all in, either way. I'm starting to understand you now.
Yeah. That's been a struggle for the group. I mean, really just relinquishing control. That's the only reason that I let you guys sleep in the truck is because I want to be able to control the heat. I don't know how to I don't know how to control it on your truck.
Well, I don't know. Anyways, where are we going with this?
Camper show.
The camper show. Okay.
I got down to where we're gonna shed hunt and scout, and set up my camper shell, set up my nice little twin size air mattress. I have a short bed pickup, so it's like 65-inch bed. Well, every cot you've ever bought is like 75 inches, so it won't fit in there. I'm like, this sucks. So I have a little twin size air mattress, like an extra small twin. It's like short. I get it aired up back there. We got the propane running for a few minutes and then shut it off. I have a negative 20 degree sleeping bag. So I'm like in that thing. I'm like, dude, I'm so toasty. Like, this is awesome. And, you know, when you get something new, I like gear. So when I get something new, I'm excited about it. I'm excited to be in this camper shell for the first night. And I remember waking up at like 2 o'clock in the morning and my feet are like above my head and I've collapsed into the bed. I'm like, like it was 20 degrees. All the air was out of my air mattress. Like I'm talking, it was nothing left. There wasn't a hole in it. You know how it gets when it's cold. This is one of the cons of an air
Just
mattress.
deflates, yeah.
Yeah, deflates. And I remember waking up and I was like, it felt like my nose was off my body. That was the only thing that was showing in my sleeping bag was my nose. And it was just like numb to the touch because the wind was like hitting it every time through those two little golf ball size holes.
Before you fell asleep, did you not close the windows or did you just...
Oh, I did. Yeah.
Okay.
But it was just the stream coming in from those two little holes.
From the
tailgate. My nose was just, I sat there for like 2 minutes and just worked out my nose. It was like, ow. Like, and once I got that good, I turned the propane on, cracked a window again, turned the propane on for a few minutes and went back to sleep, aired my air mattress back up before I went back to sleep. And then I woke up at like 5:30 and you texted me, you're like, on my way or something. And I was like, oh, sweet. I got like a few more hours I can sleep or whatever before he's here. I aired it back up again. And by the time you got there, it was done again. So screw
I guess you either need to get like a shorter cot to throw in there or get one of those air mattresses that like automatically, sorry, someone was calling me, that automatically start inflating itself as soon as it senses it's deflating.
They have those?
They make those.
While you're on it?
I believe so, but I think it's a little loud, so it'd probably wake me up if we ever wall tinted it. So yeah, never mind.
I'm a cot person.
Yeah, I am too.
I like to cot for obvious reasons. Carol's not on to talk about his beef with air mattresses, but
I don't know if he hates like the deflating of air mattresses more or just like being close to the ground with all the little insects.
Close to the ground's a problem. It's a real problem when you're.
It just sucks. I mean, for like a weekend trip, an air mattress really isn't that bad, but like sooner or later within the trip, like as soon as you get up in the morning, you don't want to be knees to the chest, like trying to put on socks and stuff in the morning. So yeah, a cot is like a little, like a little chair, and it helps tremendously.
It does. So first night in the camper shell, didn't get very much sleep.
Rated out of 10.
6.
5. 6?
5.
I would think a 6 would be really good for like you just getting the camper shell and not like decking it out yet.
Okay. 4.
I don't know. It's your rating. I'm just trying to
5. I think it's
probably
realistically a 5. I mean,
really?
If my bed hadn't went down 2 times, I'd have been like, oh, this isn't bad. It's really not bad. Like you're not super cramped. It's like I said, I'm probably going to release a video of us finding absolutely no sheds, but messing around on YouTube.
Good video. Check it out.
The video, in the video, I remember being like, dude, this is like a 10 square foot house. Like, this is awesome. It's like having your own little house. But
so
anyways,
what's your plan before we get off topic? What's your plans for that? Like, are you going to deck it out any? How are you going to deck it out? Or are you just going to basically leave it how it is and just slum in it?
I think you had a pretty good idea. Slumming it would be fine for a while. I think I could do that for a season, but I think the ultimate goal would be having like a wood frame, like you could put a memory foam mattress over and that had a couple drawers and like you could pick up the top of the bed frame and it would have storage under there too. Cause I don't want to lose all the storage cause I need it. But apart from putting a frame in from a bed, that's probably all I would do. Hang some lights, maybe some easy lights, but I have that super cool, that Duracell battery pack thing that I got to charge our cameras. Like that thing is so awesome back there because you can run your laptop off of it. You can
really?
Oh yeah. Like it'll charge your laptop 8 times.
Dang.
So it's pretty legit. So anywho, that's probably enough of the camper shell talk. Let's talk a little bit about what the goal was this weekend from a scouting and a shed hunting perspective. What were you trying to accomplish this weekend, Jake, when we headed to one of our favorite spots?
Well, obviously we called it a shed hunting trip. but
we changed that to a scouting trip.
Yeah, we changed it scouting trip pretty fast. I mean, as you already know, like we talked about beforehand, it's just like, listen, we're going to go down there, try to find some sheds, and if that's not working out, I mean, regardless, at least we're going to do a little bit of postseason scouting. And I think that was the main drive, because if we wanted to shed hunt, we could probably find a closer piece, like just a shed hunt. Like if you're wanting to just put on miles for some piles, then I mean, go to the closest, wildlife you have around your house, right? But for us, it's kind of like almost like a midway point, but also, and you can probably talk a little bit more on this, it's like we don't necessarily like just walking just to walk, and we'll do it if it's like with a big group or something. But if it's just like UI or Peyton or something like that, then it's just like, let's go see where we're going to be hunting next year, and if we kick over a shed, that's just a bonus.
That's my attitude with it too. This is on public, by the way. Right. This is our idea of shed hunting on public land. Like, obviously, if we're going to our private, I expect to find one on private. Like,
I don't. I really don't. I really don't. I have a buddy that brush hogged the private last summer, and he sent me a picture of like just a 4-point side in his tractor tire, and he was like, you need to do a better job of finding sheds. I was like, listen, trust me, I've walked, but I can guarantee you this, I'm not going to go walk in the middle of a hay meadow trying to find a shed. Like that little bit of thicket I have, yeah, I'll go cruising through it, but I'm not going to walk in the middle of a hay meadow. There ain't no way.
Well, Jake doesn't expect to find a shed on his private. When I go to the leases, I expect to find one, or I hope to find one. On public, sorry.
Depends who you are.
Yeah, depends who you are. On public, though, I'm with you. Like, we have so much limited time on, or our time. Let me say that a better way in English, please. Our time is so limited. Our time is so limited when we get to scout, and we felt like we did a really poor job of scouting last summer. For sure. That we were like, hey, if we step on a shed and it pierces our boot, I will pick it up. But I'm specifically looking for areas that we haven't hunted in the past that we think are going to be great for holding deer in the summer and in the fall. And so that was my goal, was to find a spot, and hopefully through the attrition, a bunch of miles put on the boots, I think we did like 10-ish, that we would find a shed that way. So the main goal was both scouting and finding a shed. But I feel like we really were on to something with the postseason scouting in the areas that we went and looked at. What'd you think about the new stuff that we looked at?
Hopefully it's going to be peopleless come season. And obviously trail camera's going to figure that out here in a few months, whenever we throw them all out there. But I hate to kind of admit this, but like, this is like our first, this is our first kind of go at like right after season type scouting, right? So I guess you could say like postseason scouting, but like our scouting mainly consisted of, like, in 2020, we went, when did we come? July?
June was our first one.
No. Because remember, that was last year, because last year we went to TAC and then shed hunted it. So yeah, 2020 would have been June. But yeah, that's the earliest we have been scouting down there. And I think we found a few sheds, if not at least one shed in 2020 in June. But all that being said, like, scouting wise, let me get back on track here.
We never done any, apart from shed hunting, we never done any like actual time devoted right after deer season. Like, deer season closed only like a month ago. And so there was a lot of what I didn't realize when we went was how much of the stuff from the last year was going to be left over. This last season was going to be left over for us to scout. It felt like preseason scouting, but with all the sign from the last year, which is exactly what it was. But
and it felt a heck of a lot better.
Oh my gosh. 50, what was it? 50 something?
Yeah. Well, in the morning it was like 30 some, and then like mid-afternoon it got up to like 50s, and it felt beautiful.
No sunburns, but
No ticks.
no ticks. Yeah,
It was great.
it was great. There was what immediately stuck out to me on the scouting front was like, hey, all of these grasses that are usually whacking me, and I'm having like dip dive dock. What is it? Dodge, whatever. You get it. The dodgeball movie.
Sing like a butterfly. Dodge a wrench.
Yeah, you can dodge a wrench. You can dodge a ball. You're used to that in the fall, and when you go down, not in the spring, but like I'm talking winter, like it's still very much the winter. All of that grass is so dormant. It's like getting to see with like X-ray vision goggles on in the fall, because it's like, oh, I don't just see an isolated rub. I'm with my bare eyes right now. I can see 5 of them in a row and they're like 70 yards apart. And you're like, this is a pattern. You can notice a pattern. You can see the subtle topography changes that you can't see in the fall. You know, like the visibility might be 75 or 100 yards, where in the fall, it's like, I can see 400 yards that way. I can see exactly why these deer would do what they're doing. And you can see the beat down trails more. So that was just, did that surprise you? That surprised me quite a bit.
So yeah, we could see the contour because obviously all the grass was basically dead on the ground and dormant and stuff. And it helped seeing other sign like rubs, and the droppings were even a lot more noticeable whenever you walk down. Like you could really tell like which trails were the more predominant trails just from the droppings, at least for February. But it's kind of funny because when you were talking, I was like, well, you could see, you could see the rubs better. You could see the contour better. Then how come we couldn't see the sheds?
Because there wasn't no freaking sheds.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. Like, I think some people just have that eye for the sheds. I mean, do you think we walked by any?
100%.
I just 10 miles worth of walking, and granted, we were walking in every place you could think of, out in the middle of the timber, down these little dried creek beds, around the creeks and stuff, and it like
bedding areas
wasn't working.
Bedding areas, roads, crossings, creeks, all that stuff, like the places you would expect to find sheds. We think allegedly, that's what a guy on a podcast told me once. But no, I think this is a good time to reference the NDA study that I heard the other day. I'm going to butcher some of it, but of course, yeah, there was like a 450 acre piece of land that was like pen raised deer, and they knew exactly how many bucks were in this piece of high fence, and they wanted to study what the percentage of antlers you could recover based on, while knowing exactly how many deer are in this pen. And so they sent like 5 researchers in to shed hunt this place. And they said that they only found 39% of what they knew was there. They knew exactly how many were there, and they only found 39%. And this is on a 450 acre piece with 5 people. So you put that in perspective. I think we find way less than 39%, way less than that. So. And then you take a couple people like Jake and I that have the untrained eye, we're probably fine. We found 0% this weekend.
Like we said, we got to stumble over them, go through the boot.
Well, and there are those folks that, like there are some I didn't realize it. I just had an hour-long conversation with Jake Ayers the other day on the phone. There are some people that like shed hunting, like deer hunting, like they like to get after it. And I guess I was trying to think about, why have we never really been like that? And I've thought about it. I don't think we ever had very many places that were worth a lick of shed hunting.
No, they barely had bucks on them. So why on earth would we look for sheds? That seems like an awful idea.
Yeah. And I thought about it too. Like the places that you and I grew up hunting, there's no bedding on any of these places. So it's like, I just hope he runs through this meadow and drops it right here. Like, we just didn't really grow up doing it. And so I don't have that deeply rooted passion, similar for the turkey thing. Like we like shooting turkeys, but we didn't ever really have a plethora of turkeys to chase. So it's like, it's not something I'd think about, I don't wake up on a spring morning and I'm like, I want to pick up a shed. Like I don't think like that. The Hunter's Advantage podcast is powered by Out on a Limb Manufacturing. Out on a Limb is a family-owned company based right here in Oklahoma that makes tree stands, saddle platforms, climbing sticks, and so much more.
Christian, I have a quick question.
What's that?
What bites down harder, a hippo or an alligator?
No idea.
It's a trick question. The Ridge Runner 2.0 bites harder than both of them. But all jokes aside, we use these products all across the land on public or private. These help us get into any tree we want and hunt where the deer actually are.
Most men go to the grocery store for their meat, but these products help you go to God's grocery store. I have used the Out on a Limb Ridge Runner 2.0 and the Shakar sticks for the last few years hunting public land bucks, and I've actually shot several bucks out of this setup. If you want to support the podcast and get some Out on a Limb equipment, make sure to go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 for 10% off at checkout. Once again, if you want to support the podcast, go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 at checkout for 10% off. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Okay, so tell me this. Would you rather go shed hunting or go turkey hunting?
Probably go shed hunting.
Yeah, okay. Would you rather go shed hunting or would you rather hook a largemouth?
Go shed hunting.
Okay. Last one. Would you rather hook a largemouth or go turkey hunting?
Probably go turkey hunting.
See, that's the only one we don't see eye to eye on. I think I'd rather hook a largemouth. I think I'd rather hook a largemouth if it's on a boat, at least. If it's like bank fishing, then no.
That's fair.
Neither.
That's fair. Yeah. So that was a long preamble of a few studies on why some people can't find sheds and why Jake and I are in that category for sure. But like I said, we put up 10 miles on the boots, and I thought we did some damage on finding some places that could hold some good deer. One thing I was surprised of was since all of the cover was gone on these places, it seemed like we saw a lot more deer than we normally do. It was Absolutely. Like I jumped a lot of deer, and unlike how it normally is when you're hunting in the fall, I could watch them run away for like 300 yards, and I would notice they'd get like 100 yards away and they'd stop and look back, and I'm like, oh, they probably do that all the time down here. When they get 50 yards away, I'm like, they're gone.
Next county.
Yeah. Did you jump very many when you were walking? Because we were kind of taking different paths. Like we would come up on a clear cut or something, and Jake would take one way and I would take the other way. What did you see when you were walking? Did you jump very many deer?
I didn't jump very many deer. I did see one, but that could have been like one of the 5 or 6 that you said you jumped, because at the time we were relatively still close together. It wasn't until like half a mile up there where we really got spread apart. But no, deer wise, I didn't. But for sure, driving around those back roads and stuff, obviously you were with me then too, but that's kind of where I seen the most of my deer. I
think we saw, just driving around, we had to have seen like over 30. There was a couple of groups that we saw 7 or 8 in one group.
And that's what kind of sucks, because like you see a whole bunch of them like that and you immediately think doe, but it's just like, no, those could have been bucks that just shed their antlers. And so we didn't bring the binos with us this trip, because we're like, we're not going to need them. Like there's really nothing to look at. Like if it was summertime scouting or something, obviously always bring the binos, because if something runs out in front of you like that, you can use them. But we're thinking like at least the majority of the racks were already dropped, we thought.
Didn't see a buck, I can tell you that.
No, we didn't see a buck. But also when you try to like base it off body size when they're out in the middle of the field, at least for those deer, just like, a doe could be a buck at that point, because body sizes are very similar, as we've talked about before.
That's true. Did you learn anything on? So we talked about how kind of the grass was dormant. You could really see beaten down trails very easily. There were still a lot of remnants of that. Did you learn anything about kind of where these deer were using that you couldn't have learned when the grass was there? So like, for instance, I noticed, I think I already knew this, but I noticed a lot of that movement on the downhill slopes coming out a lot of those clear cuts. Like there was trails cutting all the way along those creek banks.
I see kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah. Was there anything that you saw that you were like, I wouldn't expect that with the trails? Or was it all like, no, I thought that's how it would be?
I mean, you kind of figured that's how it was going to be because like where the tall grass usually was, like there's always going to be like those little saplings and stuff that are kind of growing within that. And I would think that like just my thinking, and tell me if you agree, like at least for that mountain area, you would think like if you see tall grass, that's kind of where they bed. And if those little saplings that are within those, like if they bed close, those trees are probably going to get like shredded up a little bit, get rubbed on. And with all the grass down, that kind of like proved that little point. And I don't know if that actually means they really bed in that area or not. But in the summertime, walking through the tall grass when you have to, it seems like that's where you find all the beds. But that is one thing that was a little bit more difficult to find, and we didn't see as many of was actually the beds.
I don't remember walking that a single time and being like, that's a bed for sure.
Right. So that, I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, like in a long-winded way, is like, is that actually where they bed now? Because I mean, walking through during the season, or I guess let me back up a little bit. Walking through summer scouting when the grass is all green, everything's all growing, you could definitely tell what's a bed. And it seemed like walking through that tall grass, you would see a bed. It seems like more times than not. And then going through the season and stuff, like obviously you weren't walking like through there, but then fast forward to the postseason scouting / shed hunting trip, you don't see a bed. So like going back into the season, when you're walking to your stand and you shine your headlamp and stuff, sometimes you see deer bedded like on the top of this little dried creek bank, which is basically eye level with you. And so does that prove the point that like they can bed anywhere, or what do you think about that?
I don't know. I felt like what I observed was, it seemed to me based on the deer that I jumped in the February, was those deer had almost transitioned from those big native grass clear cuts into like the cedar thickets for bedding. Like it seemed like that was the only place where there was like anything mature or thick enough to bed in. I mean, it was, I think obviously the bedding is going to shift, right? Depending on the availability of cover. But I think when you look at those 6, 7, 8 foot tall clear cuts with that native grass in the fall, or in the summer and the fall, that's like the mecca of bedding. Why would you bed anywhere else than that?
Right. But that's kind of a no brainer. Like during the summer, like of course you're going to bed there, and because you can walk through and see multiple beds. But I guess I did a bad way of asking it, but like, so postseason scouting, you're supposed to postseason scout because everything's like theoretically supposed to look the same as during the fall when you hunt, correct?
You would think.
So if they don't bed necessarily into tall grass anymore, like then, and they transition, that's kind of like a little learning curve, so to speak, that I guess I'm just now thinking of right now and trying to talk through. Because before it's just like, that's kind of what we did in the past. Now, granted, it's not completely as dead as it was, but like, that's kind of what we started doing too, is like trying to find those edges, right? Like focusing pretty hard on the edges, and in the mountain country, that's kind of what you have to do. But maybe in a way, like maybe in certain spots, we rely too heavily on those edges. I mean, thinking back, if that makes sense, or am I just like rambling and it's a crappy question?
No, it's not a crappy question. What do you think we could rely on apart from the edges, based on what you learned with the bedding?
Well, no, I mean, obviously still rely on the edges, but like maybe halfway steer away from like the tall grass, if that makes sense, if they're trying to transition away from it.
You're saying in the late season?
Yeah.
That's what I wonder, is if that becomes a factor in the late season. I feel like we don't hunt enough in January to know. Like if you, for instance, we did not a lot. We did some hunting in Kansas in December, right? Remember when we got all that snow? Mm-hmm. I wonder if you get that snow in the mountain country, or you get that weather in the mountain country, if those deer shift their bedding from those really thick native grasses to cedar thickets in the last part of the season, which if you take back at a couple of years, we tried to hunt in January on our normal fall pattern in those edges. And it was like, we didn't see crap,
No,
and it makes me wonder, well, of course you're not going to see anything in the late season when all those grasses are dormant because they don't use it anymore. It doesn't seem like they bed in it anymore. That's what I wonder is like, if I was to go back and hunt that kind of habitat in January, I would probably hunt near cedar thickets now. That's probably how I would change my tactics.
Yeah. I mean,
because what else is there besides those?
There's nothing. There's nothing. And yeah, I mean, that's a good way to look at it. I mean, because literally last year when we hunted in January, like we hunted it just like it was late October, early November.
Didn't see a deer.
Yeah, and I think that's the ticket.
Because you remember the last place we shed hunted. The last place we shed hunted right before we left, there was a cedar thicket in the middle of all those big,
basically
all those bowls coming together. Yeah. I walked through that cedar thicket and I was like, bed. Remember when I was like, there's so much sign in here, bed, crap. Yeah. I was just waiting to step on a shed. It never happened, but I lied earlier when I said I didn't see a bed. That was the only place I saw one, was in the cedar thicket. So it just goes to show you, like, similar to what we learned in Kansas, like the same places that you're going to hunt in the early season are not going to be the same places that you hunt in early November, which are not going to be the same places that you hunt in January or December. Like, that's kind of I guess it's something I'm putting together now, is that, like, you have to be adaptable based on the way the deer changes. And I guess that's not really something that I thought about too much, changing with the seasons. Like, I think I've relied on picking one spot and being like, oh, I hope it works in a month, instead of being like, well, what's different now?
Hearing it from the outside in, you're probably like, some of the viewers are probably like, well, duh, you got to be adaptable. And it's just like, listen here, Timmy. Okay. Like some things have to be like drilled into someone's skull, and some things, you can say the same thing to another person and it's just like, oh yeah, comprehend, check. And it's just like, no, with us, we typically learn the hard way and we have to see it like in person, and that's what that postseason scouting, literally just one trip of postseason scouting put that together, because we didn't talk about this before this on the phone or anything like that. Like we're just talking it out like right now, and kind of came to this realization. So you all kind of gotta be a part of that mess in a way. So
that could have happened on a 30-minute phone call, or it could have happened on a podcast. We try to not talk about that stuff until we get on a podcast, because it's like, these are where the ideas kind of come together. It's like sitting here and being like, I know why I didn't kill a deer last year. I just learned why, or I just thought about it.
Yeah.
Like, it usually happens. But I have faith that people that listen to this podcast can say, okay, we're with a couple of dudes that haven't arrived. They're still learning every single day. Like, I'm learning.
Late bloomers.
Yeah. I hope I continue to bloom. We continue to bloom.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, what were your goals, like, so to speak, for this trip? Like, obviously, like, to shed hunt, to scout, but like, did you have anything beforehand that you wanted to accomplish?
So my number one goal for this trip was, it seems like year after year, we deal with it more and more of the not being able to get away from people kind of thing. And that continues to be an issue, whether we're in Oklahoma, whether we're in Kansas, happened to me in Nebraska. It was an issue. It just seems like it's a constant thing that's coming up. And when you work all year and you have a limited amount of vacation and you go up and it's day 4 and like your juices are flowing, you think you're going to kill a deer, you hear steps coming and it's a guy in blue jeans stepping out, picking up acorns, looking at him while you're hunting. There's nothing more frustrating than that. Like, I cannot stand it. Our last 2 weeks our 2 weeks in November trip in Oklahoma and Kansas, I don't know how many times I got walked up on. There's probably some new listeners. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but what was it? Like 7 times in 2 weeks?
You're talking about in Kansas?
Yeah, and Oklahoma. I got walked up one time before that too.
Probably. You
Yeah.
got walked up on, I think, the most out of all of this. I didn't get walked up on Kansas. I walked up on some people. So I guess that's my fault. Or I didn't even walk up on it. That he just started flashing his headlight at me from about 50 yards away. But I did get walked up on in Oklahoma.
Yeah. And Carroll, I think I don't know if he did it or not, but
he got walked up on in 2020 and 2021 in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Well, as you can see, 2020, yes. 2021, 2022, the theme remains the same. People. And people ruin all good things. And so what I've decided is like I'm willing to be more creative in the places that I go. And I wanted to find a spot that there was no way or the only way that I'm running into somebody is if they follow me. And I feel like some people can say, oh, we'll go deeper. It's not always that simple. Sometimes it's going deeper. Sometimes it's finding something that looks like nothing right off the road. Well, I'm not going to tell which one of those we did, but we found something that I think is fairly special in the area that we have been hunting. And that was my goal, was to find a place like that, a place that if somebody walks up on me, the only way that they're doing that is if they're following me or they've scouted in the past and that this is just their area that I'm intruding on. But that was my goal. Found a bunch of deer, jumped deer when we were doing that, found a bunch of sign, and I think that goal was accomplished. That was one of your goals too, though, right?
Yeah, but when you're saying like get away from people, I did find when we were back there, I did find 3 like ice bags, you know, like those ice you get at like the quick ice vending machines or whatever. I found 3 of those empty, obviously. And one of the ice bags had a rope and it was tied up in it. So I don't know if I found like a murder weapon or something along those lines.
That doesn't look like a deer hunting bag.
No. So I don't know. I mean, people could have brought bags of ice back there to throw it in a cavity or something while they were dragging it out. I don't know. Maybe. That seems like more work for me to me. But I did find that, and that's like the only presence of like human sign I seen back there. But it could have just. Honestly, I don't know how it got there. It could have fell out of a
blown.
Yeah, with the rope inside of it. Sure.
Talk is what I've what I've noticed is about myself too is like you can find a really cool spot, but talk is cheap. Like it's hard if you have.
That's going to be a walk.
Well, topography changes and stuff too. You always hear people like say, oh, you got to put a ridge in between. If you can put 2 ridges in between you and someone else, and I'm like. When you're getting out of the truck and you're putting your stuff on, you're like, yeah. And every piece of gear you put on after, you're like, ooh. You put on like your bow, you're like, ooh. And then by the time you got your camera and everything on, you're like, it's going to be a long walk up and down, up and down. So what we've decided, I think, is like, let's let the cameras tell us how hard and how far and how deep and how high and how low we need to go. That sounded like a limbo thing. I was okay. But that's, I think, what we decided. I think we have a general area based on the postseason scouting that we did. And I feel like you said it when we were leaving, you feel like we learned more about this place that we're hunting in one day than we did all last summer in all of our scouting. Granted,
yeah.
It's Kansas,
well,
but.
Yeah, I was about to say, we really didn't scout this place because we were like, oh, we know it. I guess that is a good point. Last year, what we did, and for the long-time listeners, I'm sure you've already heard this, but we scouted Kansas because we drew out for Kansas. So we're like, we're going to put all our eggs in that basket. We've hunted this place for the last few years. We feel like we know it fairly well. And so we're just going to go in, no cameras here last summer. And whatever, the first nice thing that walks out, like we're going to shoot, and just kind of play it that way. Well, fast forward, we got our butts kicked. And then now, we tried it both ways. We tried it in 2020, super hard scouting, days on days of moving cameras around, having intel. Dude, okay, I guess I'll finish my little sentence. And then in 2021, nothing at all. And 2020, it was successful for multiple people. 2021, obviously, it was successful for Justin. And you, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was thinking this last year. I'm sorry. And then well, I was mainly talking about the summer scouting, right?
Yeah, we scouted hard in 20. We scouted hard in 21.
Okay.
Just 2022 was like an off year. Very off.
Yeah. And so now being on both sides of the spectrum, we kind of see like where we messed up. Like, hey, and this could be a good point for the listeners too, is like, even if you think you have a spot, dialed down, here's a beautiful thing about public is it changes. It changes constantly. Like whether that be new hunters move in that blows out this area for a little bit and then your spot's ruined, or if you think you got just a beautiful honey hole, well, things grow up, the canopy thickens, the understory is not there, or the understory takes off and has all those new immature cedar trees or whatever growing up, and sooner or later you can't see more than 20 yards. Like I said, things change, and no matter what, I think even if you think you know a spot, you need to continue to scout and find where those deer actually are, because in 2020, dude, we were on them, and even in 2021 we were on them too, on that rattlesnake spot that we found out was actually not our spot even. So it's kind of crazy, but but yeah, in 2020, like I think that's the year we probably hit it the hardest, and we had bucks on bucks on bucks like on deck. Like we knew where certain shooters were, and we were just like, oh, we don't want to go compete for those because there's like a truck or two parked on the side of the road, and it's just like, I think that's the difference. And then coming to like fast forward 2 years to this year where we didn't do any scouting, it's just like we have no idea what's going on, and it was kind of like a humbly reality check.
Yeah, you think you know something, and it changes every single year. You listed a lot of the good ones. Another few that I'd add to that is not only what happens to your spot, what changes around your spot. Like, something 300 yards away could get clear cut. Okay, well now the deer are going to that fresh browse over there, or someone on private starts feeding corn, or somebody plants something on private. Like it's just constantly changing. There's so many different factors, and that we talk about like on private and stuff, how your most recent information always kills deer, right? On private, like, and cell cams are a big part of that. Well, you need that most recent information on private or on public too. And we had none of it. It was like, let's try what's worked in the past. And it didn't at all.
No. And it's like, it's also cool to like know what you're hunting too. And like, that's part of the pick me ups. Like if you're like, kind of like you said earlier, you're on day 4 and you get walked up on, like that's a kick in the nuts. Well, if you're on day 4 and in mountain country where you have, I would say fairly low deer density, where you know going in, like, hey, I'm probably not going to see a lot of deer, but if I do, it's probably going to be a one I'd be really happy to fill a tag on. So with that being said, like, even you're not going to see that many deer by day 4, your mind starts like getting the best of you, and you're just like, I just want to see something. I just want to see something. Well, it would help a lot if you had a camera already there, and it's just like, well, I haven't checked it in a week, so I'm gonna go get it, check it, and hey, if I know something hadn't been cruising by here, and even though I know it's the rut and something could cruise by here regardless, it's just like just having that recent information too can help you know when to move or when to stay.
It's a good point. I think another good thing that we did talk about when we were wrapping up on public was, I'm glad that we started now, and I think starting now would benefit most folks in a really big way, because now what we were talking about when we were walking back to the truck was, hey, I know where the cameras are going. Like now I know, and now it's just a matter of when we go out in the summer, of course we're going to be scouting and looking at the different nuances, but we have our area. We have our general spots, and as they change a little bit, we'll know where to put those cameras. Whereas in the past, when it was 98 degrees, 105 degrees,
ticks and mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes, you're sunburnt. When you're walking back there, you're just like, dude, put the camera. I don't care. Just put it up on a tree. Right. Just make sure it's on. We're not like that now. We're like, I want one here, 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 and here. And that's because we picked a good time to scout. Most recent information was still there. And we dialed it down to where I think, like here's another good example on the horseshoe, right? Like we were sitting there, we're like, let's just go, instead of walking the road, let's go check out a different spot.
Summertime, that wouldn't happen.
What?
Summertime, that wouldn't happen.
No, it would not. We were like, get me to the truck. But we decided to check out one last spot that looked like nothing on the map. and we were like, this might be one of our better spots, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it was juicy.
Turned into 0 cameras to maybe 3 cameras are getting hung there for sure.
Yes. So we're very novice when it comes to directly like winter postseason scouting, but I feel like I learned a lot about deer this last weekend, and we've got a good game plan on where our stuff's going.
Yep.
I'm Jake.
Well, what else did you want me to say? I mean, I thought, you were just on a roll, so I was like, hell yeah, go off, girl.
That's always funny when you're talking and somebody's on a roll and like you expect them to keep going and they're like,
just look at you and just like, okay, let me find some words to fill this awkward silence.
That's right. Yeah. No, that's all I had was, I think we covered that pretty good on what the goals were, what the results were, how we're gonna take action based on it, and how we were lazy last year. That was one we had to put in there. So
we plan on doing anything else in the upcoming, like maybe more scouting or maybe more shed hunting in the future?
I'm gonna do some on private land because I actually want to find a shed.
Understandable.
Yeah, I plan on going shed hunting at least one more time. I've got a black bear hunt coming up in May, and then I got like a turkey hunt in Wyoming. So I'm like, I can't be spending 3 weekends shed hunting. You know, like this is not
Pick
on
your battles, and shed hunting is not one of them.
That's not one of the ones where I'm like, I'm going. You're gonna like it. I'm not gonna do that. So, what are your plans for shed hunting? Are you at least gonna go walk around your private?
Yeah, I'll go do that. So I listened to a podcast today that was like, hey, you might want to do your tree trimming and and stuff now instead of in the summer. And it's just like, well, you could do that, but you also run the risk of like having to redo it in the summer anyways. But tree trimming, I could see that because obviously like that wouldn't be a bad idea. It ain't like grass. It ain't going to just grow up in one summer. But other than that, I don't know. I might go walk the creek and see if I can trip over a shed or a deadhead. See if I can find what the neighbors shot and it ran over the fence. But yeah, I'll probably do that. I still need to go get my blind and my camera, to be honest. That's out there.
That's a good point. That's a non-cell cam, isn't it? SD?
No, it's a cell cam.
No cell cam. You just cancel your membership.
I did cancel my membership, but cell cam's still out there. I'll get it eventually.
There you go. Well, I think that's all we had on this postseason no fruit shed hunt that we tried to do out on public land. It was fun. We burned some rubber for about 1 day, learned some things, and I'm ready for the summer. I'm already ready for the summer. Too. I'm ready for some pictures.
I think that's like one of the first few words I said out of the truck. I said, yeah, this is cool. It feels nice out here, but I said, I'd rather be driving this road going to check cameras instead of like just looking for sheds.
I agree. Well, I think that's everything that we had. We've got a really exciting guest coming up soon. That episode will probably drop in a week-ish.
Are you going to name drop?
I'm not going to name drop, but if our buddy Alan McDonald is listening to the podcast, he's going to be very happy. Some other folks have requested this guy as well. An absolute legend, and especially in the public land bow hunting space, and especially in the saddle hunting space. So that's all I'm going to say.
Dude, I'm already on. I mean, hold your applause.
And his name is not Jacoby Gaylord either.
It does start with a J.
Yeah. Stop. All right, I'm gonna end this before people start guessing. So that's all we got for this episode. Make sure to go leave us a rating review on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to the podcast. Leave us a comment on YouTube. If you want to see a video version of this podcast, you've been listening on Apple, but you really like video, we have a new channel called Hunter's Advantage Podcast. It's got a gray HA. It looks very similar to our normal channel, and we just now started putting the video versions of this podcast on. So go check those out.
And just to clarify, it costs you nothing to subscribe to either YouTube channel, either the primary one or the podcast channel. It costs you absolutely nothing, but it does help out tremendously on how YouTube and that whole mathematical equation about the algorithm distributes all this video and content. So if you would, be sure you subscribe to both. And also, if you guys are looking to upgrade any of your equipment this summer, meaning like climbing sticks, saddle platforms, Heck, I even think they have camera arms for like your camera if you want to start getting self-filming, or if you want to use your phone, they even have an adapters for that to get you started in basically whatever you need. Be sure you guys check out on a Limb Manufacturing. They're a great Oklahoma-based company. Great guys working behind the curtains out there. And if you happen to see something you like, be sure you use code HNTA10 at checkout for 10% off.
That's a good segue. One thing I missed. A lot of you guys are probably wondering about the 10,000 subscriber giveaway. We posted about it on social media. We haven't talked about it on the podcast. Nick Van Diver of Adair, Oklahoma won. He won. One of his buddies actually tagged him in the giveaway, and then he entered, and he subsequently won. His buddy was like 2 spaces off. So, Aaron, you messed up by tagging Nick.
Hey, Ron.
Yeah. So Nick won the giveaway. Out on a Limb actually shipped out his gear today. 3 Shikar fixed sticks and a Ridge Runner 2.0 saddle hunting platform. So congrats to Nick. Thank you guys to everyone who entered the giveaway on YouTube. We really appreciate it. And we're going to do more stuff like this. Like, we plan on having Out on a Limb as a partner for a long time. So if you guys like them, good, because we're going to keep giving away some of their stuff. And hopefully, if we bring some other partners on, we'll give away some other cool stuff. And as well as our HA merch, which is like the only thing we can contribute because we don't make cool stuff like arrows or
well,
platforms.
We do have some pretty cool hats coming out too.
That's true.
New hats.
What do you call those? Rope? Are they rope hats?
I don't know.
Okay. If you're like one of the guys that likes to small stream aficionado, like a fly fisherman, like those kind of hats that have the rope that go across the front. Are you asking me
just because I'm balding, or?
Yeah, those. We have a couple of those style of hats coming out with a new HA patch. I think you guys are gonna like it. So be looking out for that stuff that's coming on social media. We just ordered those today, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Jesus, love you.
Thank you guys so much for checking out the Hunter's Advantage podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to the podcast. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.